Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Stadium Showdown, your in-depth look at the future home of the Cleveland Browns. I'm your host, Jeff Slauson. It has been a very, very busy week because on Monday we learned that Cleveland City Council would be approving the Browns' move to Brook Park. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, the mayor and the Browns have agreed to a settlement that would see the Browns fulfill their move to Brook Park with the city of Cleveland compensated. The thing is, not necessarily up to the mayor. Council has to agree. All council members, -2, voted to approve this. Those that were for it say this is the only chance that the city will get to have any sort of funding from the Browns in retaliation for the move. Those that were against it believe it's not enough. In total, it's $100 million. And 19's Dan DeRose explains exactly where each dollar is coming from and, of course, where it will eventually go towards.
Let's remember it was Mayor Justin Bibb who brokered the $100 million exit deal, apparently over a Coke with Jimmy Haslam, but it was the city council that had to approve it. And I remember one of the committee meetings, and Councilman Brian Casey, who was against this from the beginning, he asked the very simple question to the city's law director: if the city council approves this plan, does that give the Browns the right to go to Brook Park? And the simple answer was yes. So let's at least look at what the deal is that the city council voted in. It stays at $100 million. There's a couple of numbers that shifted just a bit. First of all, the Haslams have to write a $25 million check, or they already have, as a part of the first part of the deal. That will go towards lakefront development. The Browns are on the hook to demo the current stadium. If it costs $30 million, they pay all $30 million. If it costs more than that, the Browns have to pick that up too. Next, this is where a couple of the numbers had shifted. It was $25 million for the lakefront and $20 million for community projects, but Mayor Justin Bibb, seeing that the city council was having some pushback, he went ahead and shifted $5 million from the lakefront development to community projects. These will be paid in installments. The city council was also not happy with the extended lease. If the Browns need to play downtown an extra year or two, it was just set up that they just had to pay their basic lease rent. No, that has changed. If they stay an extra year, $1 million, that goes to community projects. If they stay a second year, they have to pay an extra $2 million. That also goes to community projects. This week, we sat down with Mayor Justin Bibb after the city council had approved this, and it is not lost on him that he is the second mayor in Cleveland history to lose the Cleveland Browns. Now, by approving this deal, it basically makes the two lawsuits, the one the Browns were suing the city and the city was suing the Browns, kind of moot. And in the coming weeks, more than likely, we will see the judges dismiss those two lawsuits because of this agreement. Dan DeRose, 19 News.
Now, as I mentioned, it wasn't a unanimous vote to support this decision. Council somewhat split to begin with. Some votes ended up flipping as it got closer to an official vote. But nevertheless, it still passed. So what is the reaction from there? 19's Caitlin McCarthy was there for the vote. She's got the latest.
I look at the nuts and bolts. I look at the dollars and cents. And to me, I couldn't go back to my citizens and say I voted for this.
Cleveland City Councilman Michael Polensek believes this payout from the Haslams does not make good financial sense for the city.
You look at it in light of the fact we put $700 million into the existing lakefront stadium, and we're going to get a whooping $100 million spread over 10 years. It's just unacceptable to me.
Council President Blaine Griffin says this decision keeps taxpayers in mind.
Is it the perfect deal? No. Is it something that I'm going to high-five everybody and say yes? No. But what I will say is that I think that we made a responsible decision for taxpayer dollars.
The council also making amendments to the $100 million deal from the Haslams. Those include if the team needs to stay downtown beyond 2028 when their lease is up, the city would get an extra $1 million in the first year, then $2 million in the second year. Also, $25 million will now be invested in the city's neighborhoods, not just the lakefront. However, it comes at a price. The extra money will come from the Haslams' portion of redeveloping the shoreline.
You and your colleagues, even today, mentioned that you felt like you were left in the dark with this deal. With these amendments, do you feel like this deal is on your terms?
I would have liked to have seen more. I would have liked to have done more. I would like to have had more time.
Cuyahoga County Executive Chris Ronayne has been very much so against a Browns move. He claims that it would take the economic center from Cleveland away from the city and move it to Brook Park, having a large, wide-range effect on many, many businesses. But he hasn't really been able to do anything about it. And now we know that City Council is approving the move as well. So what is his reaction to all this? Colton Lusky has the latest.
I think that we could have got a stronger outcome.
The county executive, Chris Ronayne, is still not shy about his feelings on the Cleveland Browns' move to Brook Park.
I've said it, continue to be consistent. I think it's a generational mistake to move the Browns from downtown.
But now that it's over, the county executive says he wishes the city would have pushed for more, especially when it comes to a possible lease extension if the Browns can't move out by 2029.
I think that the Browns are going to take a while to move. I think that the lease was a particularly strong card in the city's hand.
Cleveland City Council agreed to take $100 million from the Browns. In exchange, they're dropping the lawsuit and letting the team leave. A gut punch for Ronayne, who fought hard to keep the team on the lakefront.
This is a tough year for Cleveland. You know, I, like everybody else, feel this one. But we've certainly fought the good fight at Cuyahoga County, and will continue to fight the good fight about what's right.
Throughout this entire process, it essentially has pitted two cities against each other. Brook Park, who will be taking the future dome, and the city of Cleveland, who had wanted the team to stay for a long time. But now that this is looking fairly clear as to how this is going to go, it's interesting to hear from both sides. So coming up after the break, we will hear both from Mayor Orcutt, that's Brook Park, and Mayor Bibb here in the city of Cleveland to see how they both feel about this decision and, of course, what the future looks like for both areas. That after a short break. Welcome back. So we wanted to get a reaction from both Mayor Bibb and Mayor Orcutt about how they feel that now this portion of it has been decided. First, let's start with Mayor Justin Bibb. He sat down with our Brian Duffy, explained where he stands on this and why this is actually seen as pretty historic, having a payment be done from the team that's leaving to the city they're leaving from.
Well, I think in a couple ways. One, just the historic significance of this storied NFL franchise and the impact it's had on the city of Cleveland for generations. As a lifelong Clevelander and lifelong Cleveland Browns fan, I know, again, I'm still sad and frustrated and upset that the Browns got a $600 million handout from the state to go to Brook Park. So it's historic in that sense, but also on the positive side, it's historic in the sense that, you know, we've been able to work with Haslam family and the Browns to chart a new partnership to invest in the next generation of our lakefront, something that since Mayor Tom Johnson, who's up there on the walls here in the Red Room, every mayor since him have been fighting for nearly 100 years. And so the fact that we've secured nearly $200 million of private and public dollars for a lakefront development, the fact that we have alignment with City Council, the county, and our federal partners in the state now to invest in our lakefront shows that this is the moment in this Cleveland era to get the job done, and I'm really excited to lead Cleveland in this next chapter of our great story.
So the mayor actually comparing this to the Seattle Supersonics that left Seattle and ended up moving to Oklahoma City, now the Oklahoma City Thunder. He said that in this case, they're really the only city that's ever gotten compensation, and he takes pride in that.
No other city in the country, particularly for the NFL, has gotten a large investment, a large settlement deal of this magnitude when an NFL franchise has left their city. And I think that speaks to the great work that we've done with my administration in partnership with City Council to make sure that HSG and the Browns did not leave our taxpayers empty-handed. Obviously, we always want more. I always want more for our residents and our city. But I believe, as I said in the press conference 2 months ago, this was a pragmatic, responsible deal that protects our general revenue fund, protects the taxpayers, and gives us the cash infusion we need to write the next chapter of our great story on the lakefront.
So the natural next question in all of this, what is next for the lakefront? You have Burke Lakefront Airport that has really seen a massive decline. How potentially could that play into the future that we are going to see? And of course, the mayor had an answer that he says shows great hope for the region.
A best-in-class public space. You think about cities like Chicago, Toronto, Williamsburg, and Brooklyn. What have made their waterfronts great is it's an extension of those communities' front door. And what I'm excited about is really attacking this old narrative that the lakefront is only for rich people who live downtown or people who live on the west side. This is everybody's lakefront. And I want this to be an attraction where everybody, regardless of race, income, or if you live in West Park or Collinwood, that you're gonna be proud to bring your family there, proud to bring your friends there when they're coming in from out of town. We're gonna be able to attract more conventions and events to the city. And we saw glimpses of this this past summer with the pop-up North Coast Yards public space that we did. I remember I took my family down for the fireworks on July 4th, and I was sitting next to a family from Medina who had no idea that we converted this, old surface parking lot that is only used for Browns games to a really cool pop-up park for folks to, skateboard or play pickup basketball or get food from Zanzibar's food truck.
Right.
It just goes to show you what's possible when we think big. And I love our Browns, I love our sports teams, but in this Cleveland era, especially as I embark on my second term, I want us to think bigger for ourselves. We need to have bigger ambitions, bigger dreams, and bigger visions. And I think the plans we have for our lakefront speaks to these new ambitions and hopes and dreams I have for our city.
Burke,
Yeah.
tell me what you can. I know there's another group that's come up and said no way.
Yeah. Listen, it goes to what I said earlier about speaking to the scale of our ambitions as a city. Now is the time to think big and take big swings. And so we've had really good conversations with Congresswoman Chantel Brown, Senators John Husted and Senator Bernie Moreno as well. HSG has been very helpful with Secretary Duffy, who leads the Department of Transportation under President Trump. And so we got some preliminary ideas on what that space can be, but obviously right now I'm focused on getting this 50-acre vision executed, but more to come soon on the future of Burke Lakefront Airport.
Okay.
On the other side of this, Mayor Orcutt of Brook Park has very much so been looking ahead throughout all of this. Whenever we asked about any of the ongoings in the city of Cleveland, he's basically said, look, my control is with Brook Park and my attention is with the Browns in Brook Park. Not really paying much attention, I guess, or at least outwardly paying much attention to what's been going on internally with the city of Cleveland. So Brittany Weir sat down with him earlier on in the week after the announcement from Cleveland City Council, and here's what he had to say.
After months of negotiation, the Browns are getting exactly what they want, a brand new stadium right here in Brook Park. I spoke to Mayor Edward Orcutt, who says he thinks this deal is a responsible one for everyone involved.
I think it shows good faith from the Cleveland Browns. It shows hard work from Mayor Bibb and his administration.
The multi-million-dollar agreement allows the city to move forward with their lakefront development project.
Mayor Bibb's the first mayor in, over probably 100 years that has, presented a plan for the lakefront. So I think as, you know, a resident in this region, I think it's exciting to know that we're going to have a nice project that's going to actually become reality there.
Cleveland City Council members added penalties to the deal to protect the city. If the Browns need to stay downtown past 2029, it will cost the Haslams. It's an extra $1 million the first year, then $2 million the second year. A price Mayor Orcutt doesn't think they will have to pay, but agrees it's a smart move.
You can never predict the future, so I think it's actually a very responsible piece of that contract that there is the opportunity to do that.
He says the next step for the Dome Stadium is to present the preliminary development plan. However, if you drive by the site, you will see progress is being made.
We're working around the clock, making sure that the preliminary development plan is correct, so when it's sent over to our planning commission, that they have everything they need from A to Z and that we can just keep moving and keep this project being as efficient as possible.
Mayor Orcutt says the official groundbreaking for the new stadium is still set for the first quarter of 2026, but it could be pushed back to early second quarter.
So now we need to really look ahead for the lakefront and the development of the lakefront. And on Friday, we learned very clearly how that's going to be done and where we are in the process. We're still very far down the road, but some improvements are happening. Things are starting to get rolling, and of course, we want to know when we could expect some fundamental changes to actually happen. I'll have that after the break. Welcome back. The North Coast Waterfront Development Corporation has been very much so in charge of trying to make sure that they can have the proper people come in to potentially redevelop the lakefront. And we learned what they're looking for, the specifics of what they're looking for. 19's Katie Tursek was there. She has the latest.
Well, of those 18 groups, North Coast Waterfront Development Corporation decided to interview 11 of them, asking them what they would do with the property. Right now, the names of the interested parties have not been shared, only what types of development the land could be used for. North Coast Waterfront Development Corporation President and Executive Director Scott Skinner tells me it's quite the list.
Our proposed uses included multifamily housing, hospitality, so hotels, food and beverage, mixed use development, retail, recreation, music. 50 acres is a very large site, so I imagine you will see several different things on the site. It will not be just one element.
Once Skinner finished sharing that news with the Cleveland City Planning Commission, they then, of course, had some questions. Member Charles Slythe pointing out the elephant in the room. Does anyone know how this project will impact the future of Burke Lakefront Airport?
I would hate to plan and have to compel shorter buildings and then 3 years down the road find out the airport's going to close. And did we put the cart before the horse by not understanding how the two do interact with each other?
Skinner tells me that the stadium will not be demolished until 2029. So he says that this will give them time to really figure out a lot of those moving pieces. In Cleveland, Katie Tursek, 19 News.
Now, one part of the agreement for the Browns to actually move and to pay the city for that move is the Browns are going to be getting all of the memorabilia associated with the current stadium. Things like the seats or the flags, things like that. While the stadium is city property, what's inside it, the Browns are going to be getting. So how much money potentially is the city leaving on the table with the Browns getting that? 19's Caitlin McCarthy looked into it.
The stadium here in downtown Cleveland has been the team's home since 1999. So, Browns fans, would you want a piece of the stadium such as a seat? And how much would you be willing to pay?
Let's say I put the over-under at $350, probably about $1,000.
Anywhere between like $250 and $500.
I think I'd go $1,000.
Some Browns fans are willing to cough up a lot of change for artifacts from the Lakefront Stadium, while others not so much.
Maybe like $50.
$15, $20, something like that. Something for just for maybe a memory, but other than that, it wouldn't be worth it for me.
Why do you say no?
I don't know. I don't really care to have any Browns memorabilia. They haven't really done anything the whole time I've been watching them.
For many fans, over the last nearly 30 years, the Lakefront Stadium has been a Sunday sanctuary during football season.
It's the only place I ever watched football in Cleveland, any pro football. You know, I'm not old enough to be here for the municipal stadium, so it's my childhood, it's my adulthood, so it means a little bit, yeah.
I mean, I grew up going there, I've always gone there, so it does hold a lot of special memories for me.
Likely sometime after the 2028 season, the city-owned stadium will be torn down after the Browns officially move to a new dome in Brook Park. A city spokesperson tells us through the $100 million settlement from the Haslams, the team bears full responsibility for the demo of the stadium, adding in part, quote, "And so they will control all components of the demo work, including potential recycling/reuse of materials to maximize efficiency, as well as disposition of personal property." Councilman Michael Polensik says the payout from the Haslams was a bad deal for Cleveland taxpayers.
We're going to give them the scrapping rights, the recycling rights on the existing stadium. They could sell every seat there just for $100 and make $6.7 million just on the seats alone.
The Browns could make big bucks if they sell off pieces from Huntington Bank Field. The Buffalo Bills are selling artifacts from their current stadium as a new one is being built. On the Bills store website, a seat back is going for about $100, while a pair of seats is nearly $650. Whether it's a memory or a seat from the dog pound, some fans had another idea of something they wouldn't mind keeping.
A chunk of the field or something, that'd be kind of cool.
I also reached out to the Browns about whether they have plans to sell pieces of the stadium as memorabilia. They tell me plans are not finalized yet. Reporting in downtown Cleveland, Caitlin McCarthy, 19 News.
And coming up next week, we are going to actually be in Columbus. This is the latest step in the federal lawsuit over whether the Browns can get the $600 million from the state or not. This is the potentially last roadblock before we could see everything go ahead. So we are going to have our 19 legal analyst, Alyssa Belli, in Columbus. And of course, we'll break that down in next week's episode. But before then, if you want to watch any of our previous coverage, go ahead, scan the QR code on your screen right now. That is every single bit of coverage for the Stadium Showdown. If you want to see any of our previous episodes, highly suggest clicking on that link, clicking on that QR code, and getting the latest. And that is it for this latest episode of the Stadium Showdown. Thank you so much for watching. As I said, next week we'll have a legal look at where we stand with that current lawsuit, and then, of course, a look ahead as we get closer to the end of the year. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson with 19 News. Thank you so much for watching. We will see everybody next week.